Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Very good. Yeah, one of my favorite folks, John Putner, started here years ago at Alpha, was kind of their brains behind their political operations. Started a conservative political action committee and C4, and now he's with, spent a lot of time up in Wisconsin. That's as well, and that's a strange place to go. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. But the other thing that John does every year, and it's rather annoying because it's never accurate, and that's the NCAA basketball brackets. He gets it wrong consistently every year.
Nate Silver and I have met in person, talk about how much we hate the bracket because it's random when you get to that point.
So anyway, but he's with family and freedom, and he's talking about a very interesting subject. We will probably see this in the governor's race this time, and that's ActBlue and dark money. So, John, take it away.
Absolutely. And I did tell Marty, please share this deck after, so you will have the notes. My main topic today, though, is the way that unverified money has flowed into campaigns for years from the left, and primarily through ActBlue. And this is outside. Say there's Soros money and then there's ActBlue money, but those are the two avenues. And we finally have a bill we got through the Wisconsin Assembly that Arthur Orr is now introducing here. So kind of my two main states I spend my time in. And I just, there are two real purposes of this presentation. One is to please ask your legislator to sign as a co-sponsor. I talked to Arthur again this morning. He wants to put it in first day, wants as many co-sponsors as possible. And we all know no matter how good an idea is in legislature, it takes some work. However, there is a second, shorter topic I'm going to address, if you don't mind going to the second slide here. I also want to leave this room with the understanding that John Putner is not a Yankee. This happens periodically. The charge is made. Dave Asbell, the historian's on. I have lived a few years in Wisconsin, but I'm just going to justify that and then get to the main topics. If you can go to the next slide.
Don't stay on Chris Farley.
No, we're going to stay on Chris Farley because that's Chris when I was with him in college, and you could not tackle the guy in rugby. Chris literally did take 7 years to graduate college, which is why I caught the last 2 years with him. I was a freshman and sophomore. The movie Tommy Boy's accurate. So my first few years in Wisconsin are suspect. Southern boy goes up, only 18-year-old drinking age in the country, so I drank beer for 2 years, barely passed. Okay, so that part is a blemish. However, the next year, Chris left and Scott Walker came. We signed up 4,000 of 6,000 Marquette University students for Marquette Students for Life. 2/3 of the campus was a member of the pro-life group. I was news editor of the paper. We took it over, the Lib Trib, for 80 years. We endorsed Robert Bork for Supreme Court. I mean, we were suddenly like the faculty was trying to get rid of us. So I'm trying to justify my few years up there, okay? And then lastly, went back a couple years ago, Chris LaCivita, one of my two best friends from Virginia, was running Trump's campaign and said, there's no one in Wisconsin who knows how to turn out churches like y'all do, Putner. And we had 500,000 Wisconsinites who went to conservative church who had not voted in 2020. So my mission in going up there was to get them out. We got 402,000 pieces out. I led off a surrogate tour with Vivek and Kash Patel. We toured the state. And I'd like to point out Trump was down 2 points in Wisconsin when that surrogate tour started, and it was up 2 when it ended. So, cause and effect. But, so this is why I've been in Wisconsin for a few years. So last, just silly slides, the next one. This is actually my evidence, Rasbill, that I'm not a Yankee. So 51 of 60 years, I have lived within an hour of one of the capitals of the Confederacy, Montgomery or Richmond. 3 other years, I lived within an hour of a town that was burnt down by Sherman, Atlanta. So, this is most of my life. The Wisconsin year is an aberration. My two best friends include Ron Maxwell, who produced the movie, Gods and Generals. Believe it or not, when I give a speech in Wisconsin, they tell me I sound like a Southern evangelical pastor. I'm here and everyone's like, you're a Yankee, so I have no home. But literally, people say that to me. So, and my 12th grade grandmother is Pocahontas. So, Asbell, that's my case that I actually am. And we're opening up at Vestavia Hill's office in a couple months. So, we're here. Okay, on the serious stuff, you really do need to know. I know this is the boring page, but this is Arthur Orr's bill that would stop permanently this practice of ActBlue flooding money into campaigns. And let me tell you, when you're in a competitive state like Wisconsin, like Your opponent announces, and they have $50,000 in their account in 2 days. I mean, they can do this anywhere. They can do this in the governor's race next year. This is a practice they've used for 20 years, and it's been kind of an obsession of mine for the last 10 years on stopping this practice. And Senator Orr has a bill that would do it permanently. So I just want to try to raise this up as one other important issue. Going on to the next one. And just to give you a feel for the time we're spending on this now, I do want to be clear today what I am and am not talking about. So in 2024, I was up there, 90% of my time was getting 402,000 comparison pieces, Harris versus Trump, into these conservatives' hands. So that was it. This year, I am spending 80% of my time on Alabama political campaigns, but I'm not here to talk about that today. I just want to be real clear, but that is my life this year. So we do a lot of campaigns. It's the 15% of the time we spend on a group we started up that Marty mentioned, to kind of take that Wisconsin model we used last year called Freedom and Family Action into Alabama and a few other states just to pass legislation like this. And we will never have the comprehensive plan of API on doing everything in the state, but we occasionally have that one niche we understand. I spent a few years in banking, developing the first home banking software. I mean, we know this issue, ActBlue. We know how they're moving money. We understand how a Chinese programmer can sit there and assign American names to ActBlue donations that can never be captured or verified. So we just occasionally have a niche issue that we really know well that really makes a difference. And then at some point next year, I may go back to, we do voter registration in Wisconsin. But these are really the two states I'm in. Okay, so on the next one, I've written so much 100 pages on ActBlue, and I know I'm too wordy. So you can go to a couple of websites and read everything you want about how it works and all. But the general thing here is there's all this money circulating. It's coming in, small donors to left-wing causes. Okay, it's all out there. That's what we're looking at. And the only place you can stop it is ActBlue processes almost all of it. Now, ActBlue could stop it. They don't have any incentive to. Or your bank processor can stop it. The bank processor, for any other thing you buy online, requires that your address matches, that the CVV code matches, the basic things. You go, of course, if I was running a business, I would not want a fraudulent purchase. But for 20 years, ActBlue has been the only group to not do this. Not only to not do it, but to tell their bank processors, you cannot do this and have our business. We will not give you $200 million in donations to process if you verify the gift card that's coming in. I mean, it's that absurd. So this is just kind of your quick picture. So what we discovered when we were able to dig into the data, and actually my data guy is the guy who was Trump's 2016 data, Matt Brainerd, worked with for 20 years. We finally got access to all these donations and found just in 1 year, $347 million had come from people who were unemployed. Now, decide if you think that's real or not. but that's what we had to address, at which point we realized the only way to stop this is actually at the processor stage. So this legislation is well thought out. I want to say it's not something we did for a headline. It's a way to stop the process. So if you go to the next slide, I'll zone a little bit. So what we said is, look, got a few minutes on Fox News TV. We had an exclusive piece actually, and said. And what ActBlue said is, well, you can't prove that $347 million isn't coming from real Americans who don't have a job. To which we said, and you can't prove that it's not a Bank of China programmer putting it in. Because Peter Schweitzer and I brought in a programmer who built a program in 1 day that would have moved $1 million an hour for us if we were illicit players, just assigning fake American names to us. So if a programmer calling off the street looking at this program for the first time says, yeah, I could move $10 million into liberal causes, fake American names, no fingerprints, no ever discover. I mean, you don't think the Bank of China could put 3 programmers on this and put money wherever they wanted. So it's which one you believe. Their basic response is, we said you can't use fingerprints in a murder case, now prove the guy killed him. And our point is, okay, same thing for you. You prove the negative. We just ask you, which do you think is more logical? Do you think these unemployed people are giving hundreds of millions of dollars to liberal causes, or do you think at least a chunk of it's coming from somewhere else? So to the next one. So this broke it up. I will say this is the only time in my life President Trump has retweeted me. So I'll take that as my 3 seconds of fame. I guess you don't get 5 minutes anymore. You get the tweet. But he actually saw this, and so that was nice. We were on the news, and again, you'll get the slide, but to look down, these are the numbers we broke down. And the reason no one could discover it is even though ActBlue does have to report every donation they give because they're the first ever pass-through PAC. The first ever one that just the money always goes straight through them to whatever liberal causes. Because of that, people would go look at the FEC report to try to see all their money, and they couldn't. Well, we thought the FEC was hiding it from us. We went to them, and they said, we'd love to give it to you. We have it on servers. They process so much money, we don't have the capacity to put it on our publicly accessed servers. So we got downloads of it. So we were the first ones to pull all these numbers and realize, wait a second, $347 million is coming from people who don't have a job. And look, it's usually about 4%. You have someone who's retired, puts the thing down there. So there's 4% on the WinRed side, to give you a comparison. But almost half. And just, that's 4.7 million unemployed people giving money to liberal causes. So this was what kind of got some attention. Now, you may say that was 2020. Did anything come of it? Yes, something did. So, on to the next slide here. We've already had progress because one nice thing in Wisconsin is I got to be friends with Brian Stahl, who chairs one of the committees. So helped him in his campaign, and then he was one of the ones who launched an investigation of ActBlue. So there's some good news here. A few years ago, I have to say, well, nothing's happened. The heat got so hot for ActBlue as a congressional subpoena started filing that their 7 top people quit the organization, gone. No, we're getting out of here. We see bad things are coming. They know what's going on. And again, this is the New York Times pointing out they're in disarray. So you've got ActBlue in disarray right now. We've got this great moment. They're still processing money, but at least we've got this moment. And that was just us with Style and an event. And that's one of the pages where we have a ton of news. Wisconsin Faith and Freedom page has lots of articles. So if any policy wonks, you can go through that page. And then on the next one, so big progress there. And then we got legislation action through. I kept talking to legislators around the state saying you can stop this at the state level. You need the processor to say it's against the law for me in the state to process money without asking for the thing that everyone else asked for. You have to do the bank processors. Because ActBlue is not risk averse. They'll take any chance they can to win. Bank processors are very risk averse. And if you put something on the book saying you cannot process this money and ActBlue says you have to do it this way and they say I'm breaking the law, they won't do it. So that's why it's on the processor. And we got it through. We heard from legislators in a bunch of states that wanted to put this, but they said you've got to get it through one chamber force somewhere. Are the bankers going to be upset? The normal legislative stuff. Well, hey, it's a great idea. Why didn't it pass? Okay. Anyone who's lobbied for anything. So we had to run through, and there were some good traps. There were a couple things on wording. We went through the process once. Oh, it looks like we're saying the bank institution. Really, nothing to get in the weeds, but just say we worked through all the weeds. Okay. We got down, so we got it. So we finally, on the board in Wisconsin, got it passed through the House and actually got a crossover Democrat, who I love to death now, but just who said, well, yeah, we don't want foreign money coming into our campaigns, do we? So we're making some progress there. I know a lot of people say Democrat Governor Evers, no chance of passing. I wanted to try it there. Evers is stepping down. Sometimes these old governors get sick of being told what to do by their partisan staff for years, so who knows? Maybe we pass it, but at least now we've got a vetted bill that was attacked by Democrats throughout the process that I had to testify and answer, and we worked through. And now we've made our Freedom and Family Action page. The reason I put that up is that is literally just a toolkit to introduce legislation now. It has the testimony, it has the articles, it has the Washington Post in 2008 when they nailed the fact that ActBlue had already put a couple 100,000 into Obama from someone even Obama's campaign couldn't figure out. So it's just a quick toolkit so that now we feel like maybe someone in the House can introduce it too, etc. So on the next slide, I want to address the last argument they threw. We really kind of answered all the arguments respectfully to the legislators who challenged the committee, except for this one last interesting one. There was a Milwaukee, real liberal, senator who said, well, I can see what this is. Republicans are trying to disenfranchise all voters through voter ID, and now they're trying to do this to keep someone overseas, a good American overseas, from donating because our bill says you have to have an American address to contribute to an American campaign. Okay, so that was kind of the last hurdle to overcome. Hey, and the legislators were calling, hey, is this, like what if we have someone military overseas or something? But the bill provision makes that very clear. You can give if you're overseas. The bill says you either have to be able to, your credit card has to have an American address, so you're American giving, or you use the address that you use to register to vote. Now, for those of you who don't know how easy that is, if I, 4 years ago, had moved from Auburn, Alabama to Beijing instead of to Milwaukee, I could still be voting in Beijing using my Auburn address. You keep your old address for voter registration. Now, if you move back in the U.S., obviously you have a new address. If my subdivision was demolished in Shelton Mill to build a much nicer place in Auburn, I can still use that address. The law is actually use that address. It is so easy to say register to vote if you're overseas. You just use that last address whether it exists or not. So, to buy the argument this Milwaukee Democrat was making, this was keeping overseas Americans from contributing, you would have to buy that, one, someone is so disinterested at the bottom of the pyramid of interest in American politics that they won't even take that step to register to vote. Okay? That's one person. And they can't donate even though they are so interested in politics that they want to donate to campaigns. I mean, if there's one person out there who doesn't want to register to vote because they don't like the American system, but they do want to give to American campaigns, yeah, then they're just stupid and they shouldn't be able to contribute. But yeah, I just can't see that person being in both parts of that pyramid. So just in closing, the ask for today on the last slide here is, I think there's one more, yeah. Yeah, so just to lay it out, the reasons to vote against this bill are, one, if you do believe there are a lot of those people who hate politics but want to donate to it, or don't care about the American system, or ActBlue now under pressure has for the last few months been verifying company policy. If you believe their executives are trustworthy enough that they will never change their company policy, which would take 1 minute, then there's no need for this bill. But it's kind of a nice thing, because I can say to Democrats now, hey, ActBlue's in compliance right now. They have been for a few months. Let's just codify this, make sure there are no other bad actors. So I think it makes for a nice argument. But the reasons I would ask, just to ask a legislator maybe to co-sign this, is, if you believe only Americans should be given American elections, that would be one. If you understand that this bill for political money really is what voter ID is for voter integrity, I believe. This means you are who you say you are. That's basically it, just like voter booth. You have an ID. And just that you don't believe a programmer in China should be able to flood money into their campaigns. It's really a simple case. So that's my ask. Any legislator buddies you're with, I just think this is an easy issue for us. It's an important one, but it really is important policy. And so thanks for anyone who can spread the word on this. No bill number, unfortunately. He's going to wait and put it in first day when he has co-sponsors. But if you can talk to the legislator through that.
So it's not pre-filed.
He decided not to. I did talk to him this morning because you did ask me that. He said he thinks he can line up a number of sponsors, and he really like it to go in with a bunch of sponsors.
Any of us here can help with that as well. But that's really, really important. Yeah, it is. It's the financial side.
We shouldn't have a problem in Alabama.
And we wanted to try it in the purple state first, just to work through the attacks. We wanted to be attacked, and that's the state where progressivism started, Wisconsin. So there's kind of the conservative rural and the
Oddly enough, it's where the Republican Party started.
True. Yeah, we got both sides.
Any questions? Any questions here or yonder? Okay, Brandon.